If you own a Nintendo Switch or Switch 2 and you love turn-based RPGs, you are honestly living in a golden era right now. The library is stacked. So today we're counting down the top 15 best ones you need to play from great to absolutely unmissable. Let's get into it. Unicorn Overlord is a tactical RPG made by Vanillaware, the same studio behind 13 Sentinels and Odin Sphere, and it feels like nothing else on the Switch. You play as Elaine, a lost prince who was smuggled off the island as a child when a treacherous general seized the kingdom using dark mind control magic. 10 years later, Elaine comes back to build an army and take his world back. The story is your classic Rebels vs. Empire setup, but it's told well, and the cast of over 60 characters keeps it fresh. The gameplay is where things get really interesting. You build squads of up to 5 characters, set their formation and automated tactics, then send them across a real-time overworld map to capture forts and defeat enemy commanders. When 2 squads meet, combat plays out automatically, based on your preset tactics and class matchups. Griffin Riders lose to archers, Dragon Riders lose to magic. The rock, paper, scissors element runs deep. You can also pause any time to rethink strategy.
I shall protect you! Does this suit you?
Ready yourself!
Persona 3 Reload is a full, ground-up remake of the legendary 2006 RPG, and it landed on Switch 2 in October 2025. You transfer to a new high school in Tatsumi Port Island, and almost immediately you discover something strange. Every night at midnight, a hidden 25th hour kicks in, called the Dark Hour. The moon turns green, most people turn into coffins, and shadow creatures swarm a mysterious tower called Tartarus. But you can stay awake during it. That ability to summon a persona, basically a manifestation of your inner self, gets you recruited into a secret student squad called Seas. The gameplay splits into 2 loops: your daytime life, where you go to school, hang out with friends, work part-time, and build social links that power up your personas through the Arcana system, and nighttime, where you climb Tartarus floors, fight shadows, and prepare for full moon boss battles. Combat is turn-based and built around hitting enemy weaknesses to knock them down and pile on extra attacks.
Keep that up, Yori.
What's next? Timing!
In this situation, help me!
Monster Hunter Stories 3 launched in March 2026, exclusively on Switch, 2, and current-gen platforms, and it's the best the subseries has ever been. The setup. 2 kingdoms, Azuria and Vermeil, are on the edge of collapse because of something called crystal encroachment, a slow environmental disaster wiping out monster populations. You play as the heir of Azuria, captain of the Rangers, a squad of monster riders tasked with keeping the ecosystem in balance. An extinct species of Rathalos, a massive twin dragon, is discovered, and it sets off a chain of events that pulls both kingdoms into deeper conflict. The story tackles real themes of environmental destruction, political tension, and the price of peace between humans and monsters. It's surprisingly mature for the series. Gameplay swaps the mainline Monster Hunter's action combat for turn-based battles, where you, your Monstie partner, and your party take turns attacking. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. You play as the son of a fisherman on a small island called Astard, an island where the locals believe their little patch of land is all that exists in the world. But you and your childhood friends don't buy that. After piecing together a mysterious map at an ancient shrine, you get swept back in time and discover that entire lands, islands, civilizations, whole peoples have been sealed away by an evil force. The gameplay loop is built around collecting stone tablet fragments, using them to travel back through time to different lost islands, solving each one's crisis to restore it to the present, then moving on to the next. It's told in a vignette structure, almost like an anthology of stories, connected by one big, overarching narrative. The art style uses a gorgeous diorama look, with Akira Toriyama's character designs popping in full color. Combat is the classic DQ turn-based formula, but with new vocation system updates. A new moonlighting mechanic lets you level 2 jobs simultaneously, and each job has unique perks. Bravely Default 2 is a Switch-exclusive JRPG from Square Enix, and it's one of the best arguments for why turn-based combat never went out of style. You play as Seth, a sailor who washes ashore the continent of Excellent with no memory of how he got there. He teams up with Gloria, a princess whose kingdom was destroyed, and two travelers named Elvis and Adele. Together, the four set out to reclaim the four elemental crystals and restore order. The story starts familiar, classic JRPG setup, but it's not afraid to take you by surprise, and the boss fights double as emotional story beats. The gameplay is built around the Brave and Default system, which is the series' signature. Each character has Brave points, BP. You can spend them to take up to 4 actions in a single turn. Right now, but that puts you into the negative and leaves you vulnerable for several turns after. Or you can default. Basically, defend and bank extra BP to unload later. Persona 5 Royal. You're a high school student transferred to Tokyo after a false assault charge ruins your record. At school, you discover a mysterious app that transports you into the metaverse, a distorted mental world where the corrupt desires of real people take physical form as labyrinthine palaces. You and your crew, the Phantom Thieves, break into these palaces to steal the treasure at their core, which triggers a change of heart in real life. The turn-based combat runs on a weakness targeting system called One More Hit, an enemy's weakness and you get a free extra turn. Land all enemies down at once and you can all-out attack for massive damage. Every party member has a persona with elemental affinities, and you'll be swapping and fusing personas constantly to cover your bases. Outside of combat, the game runs on a calendar. Every day you choose how to spend your time, studying, training, hanging out with a confidant, or hitting a palace.
Go down!
Pokémon Legends Arceus is the game that proved the Pokémon formula could be pushed in a completely different direction without losing what makes it great. You're transported back in time to the ancient Hisui region, basically old Japan, and you join the Galaxy Expedition Team's Survey Corps to build the world's first Pokédex. That means actually researching Pokémon in the wild, studying their behavior, catching them, battling them. The game opens up the world into large, open-area zones that you explore freely. Pokémon roam visibly in the field, and you can sneak through tall grass, throw bombs to calm them down, or just chuck a Pokéball directly without triggering a battle at all. When you do battle, the system shifts to a modified turn-based format with an Agile/Strong style system. Using the Agile style sacrifices power for speed. You might get to move twice before the enemy acts. Strong style sacrifices turn priority for harder hits. Tactics Ogre Reborn is a remake of the legendary 1995 tactical RPG. And if you love deep, story-driven strategy games, this one doesn't get talked about enough. You play as Denim, a young man from the oppressed Wallister ethnicity in a kingdom torn apart by civil war and ethnic conflict. The story doesn't pull punches. It asks you early on to make choices that have real moral weight, and those decisions branch the narrative into different paths. War crimes, betrayal, political manipulation, this game goes places most RPGs won't touch. On the gameplay side, battles take place on grid-based isometric maps. Terrain elevation matters. Higher ground gives you attack advantages. Turn order is determined by individual unit speed rather than teams acting in sequence, so you're constantly thinking about where everyone will be a few moves ahead. The class system is extensive. Dozens of jobs with unique skill trees, equipment requirements, and stat growths. Sea of Stars is a love letter to classic RPGs, specifically the era of Chrono Trigger and Super Mario RPG, and it absolutely nails it. You follow two Solstice warriors, Zale, who channels the power of the sun, and Valir, who wields the moon. They're trained from childhood to become the only ones capable of defeating a monstrous being called the Dweller of Woe, a creature created by the evil Fleshmancer. The story is a classic light versus darkness setup, but it's told with a lot of heart, some surprising twists, and emotional character moments that hit harder than you'd expect from a pixel art indie RPG. The combat system is turn-based, but with an active element. Timed button presses during attacks and blocks can boost your damage or reduce incoming hits, so you're always engaged, even on other people's turns. The lock mechanic is huge. Enemies put up colored, magical locks on their attacks, and you have to hit them with matching elemental hits to break the lock before their attack fires. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet made a big swing by going fully open world. And even with its technical issues at launch, the actual RPG underneath is the most ambitious mainline Pokémon game to date. You're a student at Naranja or Uva Academy in the Paldea region, inspired by Spain, and the game gives you 3 completely separate story paths to pursue in whatever order you want. One is the classic gym challenge, another involves hunting down a rogue team of trainers called Team Star, and the third, probably the best, follows a treasure hunt narrative with your legendary Pokémon partner. You can approach all 3 in any sequence, which means you might fight a gym leader at level 15 or level 45, depending on where you've been. The open world is genuinely free. You can ride your legendary across cliffs, water, and into the air with upgrades you unlock through the story. Triangle Strategy. You play as Serenoa Wolfort, a noble heir in a kingdom called Nortelia, which exists alongside 2 other nations, all 3 of which are in a fragile peace after a devastating war over salt and iron, the world's most critical resources. The story is politically complex in the best way. You're caught between loyalty to your kingdom, your allies, and your own convictions, and the game regularly forces you into decisions where there is no clean right answer. A central mechanic called the Scales of Conviction literally has your party members vote on major decisions, and you can try to sway their votes by talking to them and building trust through exploration. Your choices affect the story's direction and which units you recruit, leading to multiple endings. The tactical battles take place on isometric grids, with elevation and terrain advantages playing a huge role. Flanking, high ground, fire spreading to ice-melting water, environmental interactions are deep and satisfying.
2 ashes.
Octopath Traveler 0 takes the series formula and upgrades it in almost every way that matters. This time, you create your own protagonist, the Ringbearer, whose home village of Wishvale gets burned to the ground by a trio of powerful villains hunting for ancient magical rings. You set out on 2 parallel missions, restore your hometown, and hunt down the masters responsible for the attack. The story is more focused than the previous 2 Octopath games, with a central cast that gets real development rather than 8 disconnected solo arcs. The gorgeous HD 2D art style, retro pixel art layered over 3D backgrounds, looks even more refined here. Combat keeps the break and boost system the series is known for. Hit enemy weaknesses to break their shield, then spin stacked boost points to power up attacks while they're stunned. The big gameplay shift is party size. You can now field 8 characters in battle, 4 on the front line and 4 in reserve, swapping mid-combat. Fire Emblem 3 Houses. You play as Byleth, a traveling mercenary who gets recruited as a professor at Garreg Mach Monastery, home to an academy with 3 noble houses. The Black Eagles, led by Edelgard, the Blue Lions, led by Dimitri, and the Golden Deer, led by Claude. At the start, you choose which house to teach, and that decision shapes the entire rest of the game. At the midpoint, without spoiling specifics, the story takes a massive turn, and suddenly, the house you chose puts you on a very different path than any other route. Playing all 3 houses gives you the full picture of the conflict, and each perspective is genuinely compelling. The gameplay mixes teaching and building relationships during the school phase with tactical grid battles. Between battles, you explore the monastery, talk to students, share meals, choir practice, fish, small activities that build support levels and unlock paired combat abilities on the battlefield.
Each battle a chance to grow.
Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. The story follows Ramza Beulf, 3rd son of one of Ivalice's most powerful noble families, and his childhood companion, Delita, a commoner raised among nobles. A succession crisis erupts after the king dies and leaves an infant on the throne, triggering a civil war, the War of the Lions, between 2 rival dukes. As Ramza tries to navigate this conflict with his ideals intact, darker forces reveal themselves beneath the political chaos. This story is one of the best ever written for a video game, mature, politically layered, and genuinely tragic. It doesn't romanticize war, it shows how people with good intentions get consumed by it. The Ivalice Chronicles version adds full voice acting to every piece of dialogue, which makes the script hit even harder. The enhanced mode upgrades the visuals and refines the UI, while keeping the gameplay essence fully intact.
I have you now!
Dragon Quest XI's. This is the gold standard. You play as the Luminary, a young man from a small village who discovers on his 16th birthday that he's the reincarnation of a legendary hero destined to protect the world. The problem, the world doesn't see it that way. He's labeled a harbinger of destruction, hunted by the kingdom, and forced to travel to prove the truth of who he is. The story hits every beat: adventure, friendship, loss, sacrifice, and genuine hope, and it executes all of them beautifully. The cast of companions you gather is one of the warmest and most lovable in the whole genre. Combat is classic turn-based Dragon Quest. You manage a party of up to 4 from your crew of 8, selecting actions from skill menus, targeting enemy weaknesses, and managing MP carefully. The pep system powers up characters who've been building momentum over multiple turns, triggering special abilities and team combos when multiple pepped-up characters act together.
Here you go! Get him!
15 of the best turn-based RPGs on Switch and Switch 2 right now. Whether you're into deep tactics, emotional stories, monster collecting, or political epics, this library has you covered. If you liked the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.